Drinks Coach. Yes, I'm back. Back from seeing my mum for her 80th birthday in Sweden. Hope you enjoyed my Aquavit episode, which I did in her dining room. If you want to know what a Swedish dining room looks like and what a man drinking schnapps at lunchtime looks like, do have a look at the show that was posted last week. Today, as promised, I'm going to continue my roundups for Christmas. And today we have Majestic Wine Warehouses. Majestic, as we know, stalwart of the high streets. Great variety, big on fizz, do great village wines as well as New World wines, and have a pretty smart range of spirits as well. It's a one-stop shop for those people that have one locally. Not the one to go into and buy one bottle for, because they tend to charge quite a lot if you're going to have a single bottle. But if you buy 6, then the prices are very fair. So if you look up here, just in shot, just up there, it's the YouTube's Drinks Coach. That's me. If you want to contact me for anything at all, it's at Vinesack on both Twitter and on Instagram, or all lowercase, Drinks Coach UK. Hit that bell. You're obviously watching this on YouTube, so if you're not a subscriber, please become a subscriber. Recently made the 1,000 mark. Let's see how far we can take it this Christmas. And if you press the bell, it'll remind you of shows coming up, and there's going to be quite a lot coming up before Christmas, so you have plenty of time to take my sage advice and go to the shops and buy it. So we've got quite a lot of wine here. This is going to be a slightly extended episode, I think, because we've got 7 bottles. I put in a request for some wines which I liked, and I don't expect people to send them all. And Majestic did turned it around nicely quickly and picked wines from my range, specifically wines that I've already tasted, so I know that I can show them to you with good heart. But there are 7 here, so that's not enough to do 2 shows. There's like 3 in one and 4 in another. If the wines were like 40, 50 pound wines, then I'd do 3 in a show and give them the detailing grace that's a price deserves. But here we've got a couple of fizzes, a couple of whites, a couple of reds, and a fortified. So that's felt like a real basket of goods for Christmas. So it's no aspersion on the fact that Majestic's has one show and some people have 2. It's just, I think it fits neatly into one show. And that's probably good for you guys as well. So where should we start? Well, we'll start with fizz. I think fizz is the place to start. That's just me rattling my ball and chain and my bottle opener. I've put information down here so I don't get any of the prices wrong. We're starting off with this. This is something I've never seen before. And it was the first one I tasted at their press tasting. It's made by a company called Forchir. It's obviously a sparkling wine. I'll just take the muzzle off and pop it. But this wine's from Friuli. And for those people that don't know where Friuli is in the top northeastern corner of Italy. Right sort of leaning against Slovenia and Croatia, near Trieste. And Friuli makes some really special wines and has 1 or 2 special grape varieties, not least Tokai Friulano, love or hate, but when it's good, it can be very special. And this grape variety, a grape variety which I've always liked since the first time I tried it. It's become more popular in the zeitgeist than it used to be. I bet 10 years ago, virtually none of us would have heard of it. But it's called Ribolla Gialla, or yellow Ribolla. And I think the name, if you knew what Gialla meant, would imply that the wine was quite deep in colour, but it's not. The actual variety itself, the grapes do have a bright yellow autumnal colour to them, rather than the vivid green of some others. And Ribolla Gialla sounds like another variety which you might have come across on your holidays in Greece. If you've ever been to Kefalonia, there's a grape variety called Ribolla. Ribolla, I think, crops up in other countries too, but they're not the same variety. Ribolla Gialla, Ribolla, thought to have been the same variety, have similar traits, but they're not. This is a wine which I think is, because it's obscure and weird, it's the kind of wine that if you're kind of slightly into booze, you might buy for someone as a present. Or if you're doing a wine tasting night, this is kind of a fun wine to start off with. I'm not saying this is the classic, buy this instead of champagne type story. No, this is an entirely separate wine to drink, an entirely separate pleasure. And Ribolla Gialla is a variety that's very well known for austerity, it has some lime, not lime, more ripe lemon oil kind of notes, maybe quince, but it tends to have a stony dryness and austerity to it on the palate, firm and mineralic, kind of like, I make this comment sometimes and people write back saying, what the hell are you talking about? But it does remind me of licking cold stone. It's like, or a cold spoon in your mouth. I don't know what it is. But that's the normal trait of a lot of the really fine single variety Ribolla Giallas out there. If anybody wants to know what the kind of like the snake on the benchmark would be, Viognier by Silvio German, who makes some really extraordinary wines in that district, and his Viognier is 100% Ribolla Gialla. You pay for it though, but it's about £26 or something, but it's very, very good. Let's have a look here. So what we're expecting it, well, as I said, I expected something a bit austere, quite appropriate for fizz, but it's not. It's not in any way. It's really generous and fruity. It's super fruity Ribolla Gialla. I suppose if you made this into a table wine, it wouldn't manifest itself quite as fruity, but because it's a sparkling wine, and sparkling wines tend to be a bit measured, it's gushing personality and generosity, and I think it's very, very nice. And again, talking about these prices, if we go in there and bought one bottle of this stuff, it's 14 quid. But if it's in your little box of 6, let's say you bought 6 out of these 7, I'll give you the mix 6 price, which is far, far better. And in this case, this wine nicely slips just under the £10 mark at £9.99. Let's have a look at it then. Complexity is not what it's after. It's a Charmat, so it's made the same way as the wines, which are pretty local really, of Prosecco. But it has lovely acidity. That Ribolla Gialla kind of leanness comes through on the end, and it really pulls the whole thing nicely together. And reading the tasting notes and the press tasting, I think it's I think it was a comment by the buyer. I can't remember which buyer it was that bought this, but whoever wrote it down in the tasting notes said never seen a Ribolla Gialla fizzy before, so we thought we'd try it. Well, precisely. It is obscure, it is a bit different, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a really good party fizz. It's certainly good enough to serve to a sophisticated audience in the evening, although it's not in the style of that kind of biscuity champagne style. Yeah, very smiley. I picked the last apples off my mum's tree before the first frost in Sweden last week, and they have these big red apples, which are really sweet dessert apples. It's that kind of fruit, kind of juicy, appley fruit. Very, very nice. Moving on to another fizz, and now I must say, Majestic's lineup of fizz this year, I think, was very good. In fact, compared to the others, if I was to pick one out, it was exemplary. They had some very nice wines. There's a sparkling Crémant de Bourgogne made by Carved Looney. Damned if I can remember the name of it right now, but it had a number on the front. And it was about 16 or 17 pounds, but really, really champagne quality and really, really pleasant. And I've already bought that twice for certain events. This, again, is a Charmat. This is actually Prosecco, but not as we know it, Jim. It's sparkling there. Look at that in the sun. It's called Il Colle. It's from family Seschia, not Sescia. There we go. Conegliano, Valdobbiadene, Prosecco Superiore. Easy for you to say. Yeah. This is like the top line of Prosecco. Prosecco's kind of grading system starts at kind of Mickey Mouse Prosecco DOC, and then maybe Prosecco Treviso is a punch up. Then you've got Prosecco Superiore and Prosecco, which is DOCG, and this is one of the two kind of epicenters of fine quality for Prosecco production. This one is called Conegliano Valdobbiadene Prosecco Superiore DOCG, and I suppose there's a test there that if you can't say it to the waiter, you're not allowed to have it because you're too drunk already. But this is classic making Prosecco really as well as they possibly can, and this is a family-owned Prosecco producer. Very few of those left really of any size or any importance. But there's also one or two other small enclaves in the Prosecco winemaking district. One's called Cartizze, which tend to be even more generous and a bit late harvested to this, but they're very big, generous wines with lots of persistence and flavour. So when you go out and buy an expensive Prosecco, what do you expect? And most people don't know the answer to this, because most people are only buying Prosecco because it's the cheapest sparkling wine on the pub list, or the cheapest sparkling wine in the supermarket on the way back home from wherever you've been, and you've managed to duck straight to Londis on the way home. This is £15 if you buy it normally, but on the Mix 6 it drops down to £12.99. And I think for £12.99, if you want to know what real Prosecco tastes like, this is bloody good. I mean, it really is bloody good. And I think that I'm the first. I'm known for giving Prosecco a hard time, saying there's much better value and complexity out there, maybe more thirst-quenching drinks. But I think I'll defend the good ones when I find them, because you deserve to know what they're like. You deserve to know what you're getting. And this is absolutely... got a tight cork there. There we go. Absolutely top-class Prosecco. Here we go. It's very pale in colour, which is what you expect. You want these wines to be fresh out of the box, if you like, although it takes several weeks for the first and second fermentation to occur. It's delightful wine, this. There we go. I'll just try and push it to the camera again. Again, I'm using a slightly different setup here, so I can see myself on the camera. I'm experimenting with different ways of doing it. But these guys have been around since the sort of late 70s, about around 40 years. And it says Il Colle. There we are. And it's a very nice, smart bottle. And I think at £13, if you like Prosecco, you don't like the sourness or hardness, or indeed the noise of a champagne-style wine, this might be the one for you if you want to sort of upgrade for Christmas. It'd be delicious on Christmas Day, pre and during turkey. This would go with turkey, absolutely, in my opinion. The nose is pristine of pear fool, or if you've ever eaten those Japanese crunchy white pears called Mew pears, crunch, and they've got the lightness of touch. It's not heavy Comis yellow pear. It's got a whiteness to it, a pristine, almost frosty pear sorbet nose about it. So I've been led to believe there's between 14 and 19 grams of sugar here. So this is a wine that technically, if you were going to grade it against the champagne system, is not brut, is not called dry, is what, ironically, is called extra dry. But it is very slightly not dry. But the acidity is so good that it still tastes dry. You get me? It's got lots of full flavour. It doesn't in any way taste like a cheap fizz for being sweet. Most Prosecco does taste kind of sweetish. But this wine is made to style. This is how they've done it for many, many decades. And it has that lovely, fresh, almost key lime sharp acidity on the finish. But all I'm going to say to that is, well done. Well done, Majestic, for finding a first-class Prosecco. It's only 10.5% alcohol. It's got a leisurely hint of sweetness, which almost just extends the fruit, really, in the mouth. But this would be a real summer's day treat, I think. And I can't say fairer than that. I don't think I've ever complimented a Prosecco that much on this channel before. So there we go. Those are the first two. We've got two still wines to come on to, though. And actually, I have gone, when I went through the list, there are some very smart wines being sold at Majestic this winter, which cost a pretty penny. I've slipped around the sides of those. I tried to avoid those and show that the Majestic still offers exceptional value for money. Yeah, they're doing a great job, I think. So anyway, here's Viognier Paddock, chosen by Majestic. This is about as basic bitch as it's ever going to get. It's a label, you might as well just said, might have just been scrawled in crayon, Majestic Viognier. It's Vin de Pays, which means it's the south of France. And we should stop for a second and think, where in the world makes really, really good Viognier? Well, some people might say California. I disagree. They're all fudgy and heavy and hard going. Not all of them, but the good ones are pricey. Then you've got the largest producer of Viognier in the world, which is Gialla in South Australia. They make nice wines too. But again, I find them a bit, not lumpen, but they need food. They're quite generously flavoured, and I wouldn't call them refreshing. They are grander than that. Southern French Viognier can be as light and as ephemeral and as easy to drink as some very premium Rhone Viogniers for a lot less money. If you're going to buy Viognier from the Rhone, certainly if you're going into Condrieu territory, you're already starting at 30 quid for basic, probably more. I'm just going to pull up the prices again. And this on the Mix 6 is under a tenner. So this is the same price as the Ribolla Gialla at $9.99. I know the label doesn't speak much, but when I taste this wine, I thought, I'm going to point this one out. This is the wine that when you walk past it, you'll go, well, there's lots of Viogniers to choose from, and that is literally the ugliest one on the shelf. It's also the cheapest, and I bet it's not the worst. Okay, so what do we think of this? I think this came from an estate near where all that wonderful Picpoul de Pinot. If you ever drink Picpoul with oysters, it's that area, Etang de Taux, and the estate's been bought by Bardet Clement, who are the people that make this wine. Very premium wine business indeed, with many estates all over. Started off in Bordeaux, I think. Could be wrong, but there we go. 2022, I think it was vintaged. No, not even. No vintage on the bottle, I don't think. Oh, yes, there is. Of course there is. Okay, so on the back it says Viognier Pays Indication Géographique Protégée, IGP, which is a new way of saying Vin de Pays, 2022. So what we would expect and hope. There is a little bit of colour there, a little bit of straw. Yeah, man, that's what Viognier is supposed to smell like. It's kind of a little bit apricot-y, but slightly on the marmalade side of apricot. A little bit of peach, maybe the merest suggestion of spearmint, which I kind of get. I think some people used to describe it to me and go, oh, isn't it a bit like cow parsley? It's like an English hedgerow. Well, it kind of is a bit cow parsley, yeah. Okay, so let's say cow parsley and apricots. Okay, it's not concentrated, but it's really easy to drink. It just went boom, like that. Free fall down the jugular. Down the what? No. Is there some residual sugar there? I'd like to think not. I think that's just ripeness. Very, very pleasant. Now, what do you drink Viognier with? Well, Viognier is for those people that think, well, I quite like Chardonnay, but not oaky Chardonnay, because this wine is unoaked. Well, it seems to be mostly unoaked. Maybe 10%. I don't know. It has everything you need for a roast chicken. Does that sound like a cop-out? My wife and I, you know, in these days of poorness, are buying a chicken a week. But then that chicken turns into 3 or 4 other things, and we're stocking up on chicken stocks. There's always a soup in there as well. But this will go just as well with a paella rice type dish. A little bit of saffron, some roast chicken in there, chicken bake maybe. Maybe with some paprika. Go for a chicken cacciatore or something. Or good old fashioned roast chicken with a lemon up its bum. I'm going to drink that. Cheapest wine here, amazingly drinkable. So there you have it. 2 fizzes, and the first table white is a Viognier. Now, you don't see many good Viogniers on the shelf. We see them all over the place. There's one from a very good producer called Laurent Michel, called Vendange Nocturne Night Harvested, which has been sold forever, I think, at Waitrose. I think it's still available, and a similar sort of money. But those are the 2 I'd pick out of the plethora of them out there, and I'd avoid ones that you haven't tried before, because it's a real minefield. Viognier, good Viognier. So now we've got a white wine. It's a Chardonnay. I don't remember the last time I did an Australian Chardonnay in a lineup like this, because as I get older, you've probably noticed that I've become more and more European in my tastes, which is really unfair, because I started off only liking, or only, but my avenue into wine was all Australia. Mother having an internationally renowned Australian wine list, and it was what they were famous for. And I kind of got into European wine through the New World route. But we have a wine here which I think deserves a lot of praise. Is it Virginia Wilcock? The head winemaker at Vasse Felix makes some of the world's best New World Chardonnay. I'm saying that now because, okay, let's hang it. She makes some of the world's best Chardonnay. And it's not easy to say that about Australia. There are 1 or 2 Australian Chardonnays that people may be familiar with. Oak Ridge, Ocean 8, Yabby Lake. That are really, really wonderful wines. De Borsley. But they're handcrafted wines made with all the same care and attention as any other small single estate Chardonnay. Well, this Filius, meaning son, I guess, in Latin, if I remember anything from school, is probably the parts bin left over from the single vineyard wines. But if you ever get a chance to drink Heytesbury Chardonnay, which is a £50 plus Chardonnay from Western Australia, from Margaret River, it's a true statement of how good Australian Chardonnay is these days. Without being super, super lean, it's not extreme one way or the other. It's not a natural wine. It does everything correctly, and it ages beautifully. And Virginia is a genius with Chardonnay. What's really unusual is that level of pure genius and deliciousness in those wines trickles down to level 1, to the ground floor, which is this This is Vasse Felix, Margaret River, Filius Chardonnay. I think it's about £12, is it? Mix 6, £14.99. £10.99, so just over a tenner if you buy this in a mix 6. There are lots of Chardonnays to choose from. There's Journey's End Chardonnay, which is similar money, maybe even slightly cheaper, which I thought was very, very good this year. Better than normal, in fact, I would say, but it was very good. And this wine for an extra £1 just gives you something else. It has those wonderful toasty notes of like almost honeycomb, like cinder toffee. There's spiced lime tea note. It's a bit like if you've ever had nimbu pani chai, you've had nimbu pani tea, nimbu pani squash, which is cooked spices and Indian limes are made into a warm or a cold drink. It has some of those weird spices. I would go green cardamom, hint of cinnamon, some lime definitely. It's 12.5% alcohol. Do you remember all Australian Chardonnay was 15% or 14%? Well, the good guys know that's not the way forward. I think that under £15, that is the best New World Chardonnay out there. Certainly the one that I've seen. There may be better. But on this scale of this notoriety, Vasse Felix is a very well-known estate. Western Australian Chardonnay at its finest for a mere £12. You can't say better than that. And again, a Chardonnay like this goes so well with roast chicken. Victoria Moore, the wine writer for the Daily Telegraph, who's a very dear friend of mine, we always used to say, we used to get have a roast chicken with a South African oat Chardonnay, specifically the wines from Rustenburg, I think it was. I can't remember what we like. Verkelechen, that's right. But this wine is very much in that same ilk. And if you can't afford much and you want to impress the partner, or anybody particularly, then cooking a roast chicken properly with nice veg that's not overcooked, with a nice gravy straight out of the jar, I don't care, gravy's gravy, then a glass of that or a bottle of that will elevate that entire experience to something else. So this is certainly my tip for white wine to go roast turkey and or roast chicken this Christmas. And again, if you're buying in a box of 6 there, it'll only cost you a shade over £10 and you'll get a lot of pleasure out of that. Past the whites now, we're down to the reds. So you can see this was going to be quite a long show. How are we doing for time? It's about 22 minutes in now, I think. So we're doing okay. I think we'll be done by just over half an hour, I think. What reds did I choose? Well, there was so much to choose from. There were some very nice Burgundies, there were some fancy wines. Obviously, Majestic always has a good handful of Bordeauxs and things to choose from. But I sort of plummeted for something a bit different. This is a wine brought to us by the king of mass production of wine in Niederöstereich, which is the Weinviertel, the wine quarter around Vienna. And it's a guy called Ferdinand Meyer. And Ferdinand Meyer, if you ever go on holiday, certainly if you're going skiing in Tyrol, where there are no vineyards, it's all schnapps and beer. If you go to any supermarket or any spa, there'll be a reserve Grüner Veltliner Campsal Friuli Ferdinand Meyer, and maybe two for €7. And they're fantastic wines. Perennial gold medal winners in competition in the Mondus Vini, which is the big competition in Germany. And he's partly responsible for this project. And this is made from my pet wine of Austria, which is Zweigelt, or no, Blauer Zweigelt, in fact. Blauer Zweigelt or Zweigelt is a grape variety which is the cross of the other two well-known varieties in Austria, which are kind of Austrian. St. Laurent, or Saint Laurent, and French Blue, Blau Frankisch, also known in Hungary as Keck Frankosch. Very serious wine. Parked in the right place, in the Leiterberg, for example, it can make wines that age for 20 years and has tannin and structure. Very elegant. Quite Bordelais for a place which is encapsulated a little bit warmer. If you're in the southwest of Austria, then you're getting a lot more sunshine, continentally anyway. And I think the Zweigelt is totally kind of misunderstood. It's a grape variety which, first of all, doesn't create pyrazines, so that when the wine is unripe, it doesn't taste unripe, it just tastes a bit sour. You don't get those horrible green, bitter flavours that you can get from wines that are made in a cool vintage or have been overcropped or not made properly, which have a taste of grass and green pepper and all those kind of unripe qualities. Zweigelt doesn't have that. If you pick Zweigelt when it's young, it tastes like Beaujolais, has kind of racy, sour cherry flavours. If you pick it 2 or 3 weeks later, you just end up with a different style of wine. And that wine will be almost Zinfandel. It has lovely big gops of plummy fruit and extract. 2021, which is this particular vintage, was a terrific vintage, a very warm vintage, and particularly good, I think, for Austrian red wine. It was a stunner for Gruner Veltliner, as you'll know, which is my favourite white variety, probably in the world. 22 was also very good, but 21 was that just a lot warmer. Similar, if anybody can remember, to 2015. So this is Von der Land, which I guess is a bit of a very Germans and Austrians do have a sense of humor. Yeah, Wonderland. It sounds like Wonderland, but it means from the field. Von der Land. Okay, so yeah, actually that is kind of funny. I'm sorry. Should be critical. I'm half proud myself. Okay, right. So 13.5% alcohol. Nice Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, kind of crazy, kind of Roy Lichtenstein pop art label. Oh, I remember now, at the tasting, there was wines that go all the way around the room, hundreds of them. And I remember going past and just smelling this as I went past out of someone else's glass. Ah, God, that smell is both familiar to me and pleasing. Zweigelt smells like, oh God, it's like it's fruity, but you can never quite get it right. It's a bit like elderberries. It's kind of a bitter, sweet, sour. A bit like cranberries, a bit like red currants. Yeah, the closest thing I can think of is red currant jelly with your game pie or something like that. And it would be gorgeous with squab pigeon or partridge or something like that. It's light on its feet. If you buy the mix 6, this is only £10, ladies and gentlemen. And I think this is absolutely all the reliable red wine you can want. If you're fed up with Beaujolais and you want a break, this is a very nice place to trip to. I'm sure you'll go back. But this is a wine that has a slightly riper, softer sort of canvas, but has that lovely acidity and freshness and zing and zip. And this wine has been made, I think, to drink in pint glasses. It's just so effortlessly quaffable. Crushable Zweigelt. What more can you want? And I imagine I might buy a couple of these for Christmas myself. If my father's watching, father-in-law that is, you might be getting some of these at Christmas. Brian, I think it's a perfect wine for your table, actually. And I think Sheila would like it too. There we go. Right, so 2 more wines to go. I need to swap my glass, I think. It's a bit dirty. There we go. Now, this is a label that people who've been into wine for some time most assuredly must have seen before. This is the label, the pale grey label, which looks a little bit like the colour. It's almost white, really. There was a slightly grey label of a wine called Michael's Hermitage, which then has now become Michael's Shiraz, which is this estate's top Shiraz. And this wine is just called Wynns Coonawarra Estate Shiraz, made by the otherworldly genius who only makes wines which have such tailoring. So they're always so well proportioned, they're always so finely cut, that she has to be put up there in the handful of top world winemakers. And her name is Sue Hodder. I remember Peter Douglas, who was, I think, the one before her a long time ago, and it's very sad I've not been invited to Australia for a long time and I can't afford to go. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anybody listening? I was in Old Panola down there in Coonawarra in 1994. Haven't been back. Need to go back. A lot's changed. But the wines that I remember, things like Wynns Coonawarra Black Label Cabernet, which was a $5.99 wine in Oddbins. I mean, that shows you my age. Went up in price, up in price, up in price. Then it was £10. I remember it was £16 in Waitrose not long ago. Now it's $24.99. Does it deserve it? Well, compared to other wines, probably yes. I think it does. Wynns Coonawarra Wynns has always been a part of the old Southcorp group. It was a part of the prestige of the greatest Australian wine brand of all, which we're going to come on to in just a moment, which is Penfolds. Penfolds have just done everything right, always have. Well, I wouldn't say they haven't done everything right, but in terms of prestige, have just managed to always give the impression of no compromise. And that would be Sue Hodder and a T. This is Wynns Coonawarra Estate 2021 with the pale regular label. There's like other labels. There's a dark green label, I think, called the Steadings or something. Is it? Which is the new entry Cabernet, which could also be very good. The black label Cabernet Sauvignon is stunning, although it's now full £10 dearer than the last time I bought it. But then you've got the red label Wynns Coonawarra, a wine that I used to buy for £29.99 in Obbins when I was a manager there with my discount, but I think it's several £100s now. It's just the way things are. You know, if you want the best, you have to pay. And these wines deserve to be the same price as equivalently priced Bordeaux because they are as good. End of story. Okay, so it's just astonishing how consistent year in, year out. And Coonawarra is a cool area, cold area. That whenever I smell this wine, blind or otherwise, or any of the wines from Wynns Coonawarra, I used to sell a Riesling for Wynns Coonawarra for $2.99. Can you believe it? $2.99, unbelievable. This wine has this profound but subtle depth of fruit. It's not fruity like Wacky Racist fruit. It's not like a cannon going off. You smell it, and you can smell deep plums. And you smell a bit more, and you can smell damson with a hint of chocolate. And it's like you're going down a well. You're going down a dark hole, and it goes down and down and down. And the more you smell it, the more fruit you find. And it's just so linear and so stylish and so perfectly ripe. It's not overripe, it's not underripe. It's just bullseye, okay? And that's... I think when Coonawarra does it well, that is a good way to describe it. The purest Cabernets in the world come from districts. Everyone would agree or disagree which are the best ones, but I think it's very hard to beat a really good vintage of Penley Estate Reserve or Wynns Coonawarra, red or black label, or many of the others. I'm sorry I'm not mentioning them, all of them, but, you know, Holic, so many. Bin 707, shouldn't leave that one out. Absolutely delicious. 13.6% alcohol, is that on the back? You could almost mistake it for a Rhone red. It's that elegant now. It has a tannin which just pulls up a little bit short, but Syrah can have quite brutal tannin. This tannin is not brutal, and it's grown in these wonderful, deep, rich, iron-rich, rusty Terra Rossa soils, and you can taste that. There's a dry, sexy rustiness about it. I mean, whatever you do, when you have that fruit in Coonawarra, it has a steampunk edge to it, but this is done with a Paul Smith suit. So, if you bought a single bottle of this from Majestic, it would cost you £15. In this mix 6, it's £12. So, for whatever reason, if you want to have an Australian Christmas, the Vasse Filius and the Wynns Coonawarra Shiraz 2021 are from two great estates with huge histories, pioneers in both their fields and their regions, and are still killing it, kicking it like it's real. And what can I say? At those prices, those wines are as good as wine gets. Oh, it's so nice to drink great Australian wine again. Just don't get I don't get sent them. Send me more Australian wine. Okay, now we're on to the last wine. This is a wine that costs £27-ish, I think, if you buy a bottle of it. But so it should, because it's absolutely astonishing. For those people that don't know, there is a vast and massive and important history of making sherries and ports in Australia. Why? Well, when they got there was no refrigeration. Wines used to go off, and the only way you could make wine that didn't go off was to fortify it. This is the Penfolds Father Grand Tawny. It comes in terrific packaging. If you buy it on your mix 6 and you want to spend the extra special on something, then I reckon this isn't a bad choice. It's 18% alcohol, so it's the same strength as port, or very slightly less than port, and is 0.5% higher than most sherry. So this is a tawny port that... Now, this is the only time I've ever seen anything that Penfolds did which was a bit suspect. It says on the bottle, certified minimum average blended age 10 years. Certified minimum, average, blended age. What it should have said is roughly 10 years old. Then we wouldn't have this conversation. It's about 10 years old. But certified minimum average. Go back to school, guys. Okay, so. Pull that away. What's it made from? Well, it's made from the two great Australian sherry and port grapes. Great port grapes, indeed. Shiraz, yes, you heard it. Their ports are made from Shiraz. And Mataro, or Mourvedre in France, which has this wonderful savoury, gravy quality. And often you'll find some Grenache in the mix too, but this is, I think, Shiraz Mataro. Knowing that there's some wine here that's considerably older than 20 years old, and there are some liqueurs. This is made in the Niederöstereich cellars, the old Penfolds cellars, right in the heartland of Barossa. Oh, look at that colour on that. Whoa. I'm just going to do that again, so I can pour it for the camera. It's the colour that between 10 and 20-year-old Portuguese port or tawny port should be. It's got a splash of pink running through what is basically a mahogany amber orange, and so it has this wonderful, exciting colour. And if the colour's that refractive and different and has so many different facets and shades, you've got to expect the wine to have more than just your average kind of straight down the line fruit. And there are still not many of them left. There are still some really great ports and dessert wines out, fortified dessert wines in Australia, and they feel like they're going the way of the saber-toothed tiger, which is rather sad. But I don't think there are any tawny ports that are more complex than this in Portugal. In fact, in the world, at this sort of price, this is no sacrilege. This is Ramos Pinto, Quinta do Noval tawny good. And it'd be quite nice at the table to rather have a tawny port from Portugal. To pull this out from Australia, I think a lot of people will be gobsmacked and astonished at how good this wine is. Okay, purposefully laid off it until now. I love my job. It's a million things all at once. It's definitely Australian. Has this wonderful rancio undertow like sherry, kind of nutty. You can taste the old casks it's been aged in, which are between 15 and 30 years old. So there's kind of sappy, alcoholic, woody note, but it's also pristine and clean. A taste of all your Christmas treats, your dates, your figs, your stuffed plums, all that, prunes, all blended together with a little bit of roasted coffee, torréfaction in France. There is a billion things going on. I sure hope they got a gold medal in the IWC this year. If it didn't, then we're doing the wrong thing. Look, I know it's the last wine in the lineup, but it's the strongest, it's fortified, it's all those things, but Jesus, wine doesn't get any better than that. Thank you very much for listening. That was nearly 40 minutes, but it was the big one. This is a big extended show for Majestic. Ribolla Gialla, fruity at a tenner. 11, 12 quid for a very, very good top line Prosecco if you're not a champagne head. Delicious Viognier with a slightly boring label at $9.99. Fantastic Australian Chardonnay from Margaret River. An effortless quaffer from Austria. A super stylish Shiraz from Coonawarra. And then finish with Penfolds at Christmas. What can be more Christmassy than that? See you next time.